This is Jesse Mathewson from Can Mode, and you are listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I'm your host, Keith, and we're back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have Christian Lembach of Horrors. If you don't know them by now, you should. They're an excellent hardcore / noise rock type band out of Atlanta, Georgia. They've been doing it and doing it well for quite some time now. They're awesome, and they have a new record coming out. It's called War. And we talk all about the making of that record, the band's history, and I learned some very interesting facts about Christian while we were talking, which we connected very deeply on. It's an excellent conversation, and you're going to hear it very soon. But first, here's how you can support The New Scene. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at New Scene Pod. Reviews. Give us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's a free and very quick way to support the show. Shirts. We have shirts for sale at Death Wish Inc., a variety of t-shirt options and a long sleeve option. The long sleeve shirt is sold out in size large, but we've got it in every other size. Pick it up soon before they're gone. Also, you can always email me at newscenepod@iodinerecords.com. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. Jerome's Dream will be playing 9 Lives Fest in Oakland, California. That's July 5th and 6th. Dead Bars have 2 shows coming up. One is April 12th in Belltown, Washington, and the other is April 13th in Portland, Oregon. Limited to One record store in New York City will have an exclusive limited edition variant of Glitter and Spit. That's the excellent new LP from No Man. It's for Record Store Day, and that's on April 20th, so make sure you stop by Limited to One on April 20th and get a copy of that record. Also, there's only 18 spots left in the Iodine Noise Cult. Sign up and you'll get every vinyl release that Iodine Recordings is putting out this year. Also, don't forget to support this month's sponsor, Revelation Records. That's right, Revelation Records. The classic, the legendary Revelation Records is our sponsor for the month of April. They need no introduction, but in case you've been living under a rock all this time, they're home to pretty much every band ever. Judge, Sick of It All, Gorilla Biscuits, Quicksand, Inside Out, Burn, Farside, Elliott. The list goes on and on. They continue to put out great releases to this day from bands like Paint It Black, Spaced, Be Well, Drain, Calling Hours, and a lot more. By the way, have you heard Say Less? That's the new record from Calling Hours. I hope you have. I was just listening to it again recently, and it's so good. So good. Gin Perry. That song is a hit. Here's some additional updates from Rev. Gimme Some 90s is taking place on Saturday, August 24th at Garden Amp in Garden Grove, California. This is a big show that features Into Another, Game Face, Shades Apart, By the Grace of God, Calling Hours, and a bunch more. Tickets are still available, so get yours fast. Ray Capo just released his book From Punk to Monk, and it's available now via revhq.com. Culture of Death, the new LP from Planet on a Chain, is available now via revhq.com. And don't forget to pick up the new LP from Spaced. It's called This Is All We Ever Get. Head over to revhq.com, pick that up, pick up the other records I talked about, and while you're there, pick up some classic releases from all of your favorite Revelation bands. Follow Revelation Records on Instagram at Revelation Records, and follow RevHQ on Instagram at RevHQ. And make sure you sign up for the newsletter. You'll get all of the latest label info first. Okay, so check back in with me in segment 3. I'm sure you saw the big news that this day forward we'll be playing 2 gigs at the end of August. That's exciting. I went to one of the shelter gigs last week. I'll recap that. We've got some new reviews. I've got some emails to read. We'll cover everything. But right now, we are going to speak to Christian Lembach of Whores. Enjoy. All right. We are here now with Christian Lembach. Christian, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Christian, it's great to have you here. You're up to a lot right now. We were just talking. You're in New York City on a big and long job, and you've got that going on. And we were talking about the Navy Yard, which is apparently haunted. And look, maybe we might get to that later. We might not. But
Sure.
Whores, your band is doing a lot of great things. We've got our first new record in a while coming out on April 16th, and I'm excited about that. And we're going to talk about all that. But Christian, first I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm a little tired. I've been working pretty hard the last few weeks. But I do that so that when the band goes on tour, I don't have to I can enjoy myself a little more, and I also don't have to make decisions that are based on money, because a lot of times that will not be the right decision. So in order to have that freedom, I've got to have a little bit of money in the bank. So that's kind of been my pattern here for the past few years, of just kind of going back and forth between movie work and the band. And when I'm in another city, if I'm able to go to a record store and maybe buy a record, I tend to have a better day than were I to not have an additional $20 that I wouldn't miss, so it makes everything a lot easier if I have a little security.
Exactly. So if you're working on a movie set, what are you doing?
I am a scenic industrial, which is sort of like saying a petroleum transfer technician. I wash paintbrushes. That's basically what it is. So there's a department called the scenic department, which is sort of in between the construction and set dressing phases. It's technically part of the construction department, but it's a lot of paint and plaster and wood staining and there's some faux finishing, and yeah, it's most simply explained as the step between construction and set dressing.
Nice. How long is this gig you're on right now? How many months will it be?
Well, for me, it'll probably only be 3 or 4. The show will continue after I leave. I leave on the 12th, and then I go back down to Atlanta on the 13th and 14th. I'll be back in Atlanta the evening of the 14th, and then, as you mentioned earlier, the record comes out a couple days after that. So I just kind of need to be at home in front of my computer for whatever happens. So yeah, I kind of can't really be distracted. I need to be giving that 100% of my attention on the day. So that's the plan.
Right. How often will you go back and forth if you're on a long-term gig like this? Like, I used to travel a ton for work, and I would always come home on the weekend, even if it was stupid to do so.
Well, I did go back to Atlanta a few weeks ago to do, a friend of ours is shooting a sort of I don't know if I really want to call it a documentary, but just sort of shooting a thing about the band and sort of the road to getting this record out. And we shot some stuff for that. And then, had band practice and stuff, because before we actually leave for tour, we've got a festival show in Chicago in a couple of weeks. So we need to practice for that. And then, so I do go home sometimes, but it sort of depends on, I always put music first. So it kind of depends on what the band has going on. I try to fit work around the band. And I think it's a sort of a fool's errand to have a backup plan. I think, in my opinion, if you have that, you're never really going to take any chances, and I think it's important to kind of have a little bit of fear. So it's for me, at least, it feels a little more urgent, and it's not just a hobby, and there's nothing wrong with having it as a hobby. It's just, it means so much more to me than that I try to see what's happening with the band first, and then work falls around that, so this show will go on, for a little while. It's just the first season of a TV show. So I would say on a year, it's probably, maybe 60-40 weighed towards the band. Now a few years ago, like after the last record came out, it was like pretty much only did band stuff for a couple of years, and maybe I would work a week or two here or there, but nothing serious. And we're probably about to get back to that here the rest of this year and certainly next year, which is how I like it. But yeah, I mean, you can't just go to the same city over and over and over and over again. There are limits to what you can do. So, and that's honestly, as I'm sure you well know, the only way to make a living doing this is to play shows anymore. So, which I have no problem with. I love touring. I love playing shows, but yeah, the band stuff always comes first,
It sounds like with your job, you can plan around and you can plan your job around the band, which is good, right?
Yeah, it is. It's I pay union dues in two different unions. I've got like dual residency, and I paid the New York. I'm a member of the New York Union, and also the Atlanta Union as well. And it's a bummer to do that, but I'm really fortunate that I can come up here and work. My best friend in the world is I'm staying in his apartment and eat for free, and if I was not able to do that, then I would not be able to come up here and work, because I would just be spending all that money on a Airbnb or whatever, a sublet
Right.
or whatever. So that's a big part of it. So I'm fortunate to be able to do that. And it just I have more options. Work in the film industry at large was non-existent for a while because we were on strike. And I'm 100% for that. I believe in absolute solidarity with that stuff. But you can't work, so you can't really make a living that you're used to. So Atlanta's just barely kind of coming back from that now. New York and LA got started, got back at it a little quicker than Atlanta did, which is the main reason I come up here, because there was an opportunity, and I just kind of couldn't wait around in Atlanta for it to pick back up when I could just come up here and work immediately. So yeah,
Right.
pretty lucky.
Yeah, I forgot about the strike. My bandmate is a set builder, so I remember when the strike was happening now, and thankfully he's back to work now.
Yeah. It's I'm lucky, man. I'm lucky as far as I mean, I don't think it was luck that put me in this position. I just feel grateful that I'm able to do it this way. But it's a plan. You know what I mean? It's not an accident that my life is set up this way. It's set up this way so I can, pursue the band as hard as I want. And I don't mean in a careerist sense. I mean in a creative sense. I've got enough, because it really takes time, to it's not even just band practice, like songwriting and all these other things. I mean, a lot of it is really sort of thinking about it, even if it's in a passive sort of mode. Anything creative it's fucking time consuming, man. If you want it to be good, I think it takes some time.
If you want it to be good, it should be all consuming or close to
Yeah.
it. I was
Oh,
thinking about
dude.
this the other
Yeah.
night. Okay, growing up, I wanted to be in a band more than anything, right? Or so I thought. But I spent all my time getting high and going to bars and worrying about whatever girl I was dating at the time, right?
Right.
So that was the priority. The band was not the priority. Fast forward 15 years later, I got my act together. Now I barely watch TV. I barely watch movies. All I do and all I think about is working on this podcast and my current band. So that's the focus now. So if you want it to be good, if you really want to keep growing, kind of like you're talking about, I think it has to be the focus.
Yeah, I mean, like I sort of touched on a moment ago about the backup plan. I think Bill Burr had this thing about how, like, if you want to become a dentist, you don't have a backup plan. You just go to dental school and you become a dentist. And I feel the same way. Like I always, always, always wanted to be a musician. And of course, like any loving parent, they want you to have the fallback thing. And I just don't believe in it, man. I just don't. I understand the parent perspective of wanting their child to be secure and happy and healthy and all these things. But in order for me to be secure and happy and healthy, I've got to be playing music professionally, bottom line.
Right.
So whatever I have to do to make that happen is how I'm going to spend my life. That's just not even negotiable at this point.
So that's the only thing you've ever wanted to do.
Yes,
Now, you grew up in South Florida, correct?
I did. I did. My dad is from the Bronx in New York. My mom is from Elizabeth, New Jersey. I was born in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, and then we moved down to South Florida when I was like 5, I think. And I lived down there until I went to college. So I was there from 5 until 17.
Where at in Florida?
Marco Island, Florida. It's very small. Some people have heard of Naples, Florida, which is where I went to high school. Laura Grace from Against Me is from Naples also. She moved to Gainesville from Naples, but she's from Naples. Naples is about 30 miles north of Marco Island. It's pretty small. The airport is another 30 miles north of that, which is Fort Myers. So Marco is the last thing on the Gulf Coast before the Everglades. Everglades City is a little further south, but it's inland a little bit. As far as the actual coastal Southwest Florida, it's literally the last thing. Like if you open up Apple Maps or Google Maps or whatever, and just zoom in, it's the last thing. It's like the same. It's the same latitude as like Fort Lauderdale. It's just on the Gulf of Mexico, not on the Atlantic.
I was looking at Florida on Google Maps recently. Don't ask me why, I forget. And this kind of blew my mind. All of Florida, all the residential parts are like on the perimeter near the
Oh, of
coast.
course.
The middle
Yeah.
is just all Everglades and that kind of thing. I had no idea.
Yeah, if you see it from the air, it's immediately clear that it's a swamp with a little strip of beach around it. Yeah.
Did you like growing up there?
No, I hated it. I mean, I left the second I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I know as an adult now that I was very fortunate to have grown up there, but as a child, it was fun when I was just into sports and playing with my friends and not ever wearing a shirt or shoes. It was really Lord of the Flies style fun. It was great. But as soon as I got into anything remotely counterculture, I just hated it. It was just a solid decade behind the rest of the world. I mean, I remember ordering Doc Martens out of the back of Thrasher magazine because they weren't available, like it sucked, man. Now as an adult, I realize how beautiful it is and how nice it is, and how the things that it has to offer are not cool punk rock shows, but the sunsets are mind blowing. So it's like it has its charm. It's just when I was a teenager and a young adult, there's no way I would have stayed there. No way.
Right. What did you get into musically? I mean, did you come in on punk, metal, hardcore? What grabbed you? What kind of stuff did you get into and when?
Well, I liked music a lot when I was, second, third grade, like a little kid before I even hit puberty or whatever. I both my parents worked, so I would come home get off the bus from school, and my dad had a stereo that was in the garage, and I would get this little step stool, and I would drag the step stool over to the workbench and climb up on the workbench and then sit crisscross applesauce on the workbench and then angle the speakers like towards my head so they were on either side of my head and just listen to the radio until they came home. And I did that every single day. I was just obsessed with music from the first time I heard it. So once I started kind of really getting into what I would consider like my own kind of style music, Van Halen was huge for me when I was a little kid. It just seemed so otherworldly to me. So I was a huge Van Halen fan when I was probably still in grade school. And then, because of the time, I got into like these hair metal bands and stuff because that's what was available to me. In the 80s in South Florida, it's like all there was. And then at around the same time, I had also gotten into skateboarding, like a lot of people, and skateboarding and Thrasher magazine was really sort of my introduction into punk at large. So skating kind of got me into, there are a lot of like ads in thrasher for like stuff that I could tell was punk, but like I didn't really know anything about it, and I didn't have anyone saying like, oh, these are the cool bands or whatever. So just kind of flying blind. But through skating and through Thrasher magazine, I got into a lot of like American hardcore, like Minor Threat and Misfits, of course, and some of the stuff like some of the stuff at Black Flag, the California, Circle Jerks and stuff, California hardcore, and
Right.
that's when I really sort of connected with it in a I don't want to say in an emotional way, because I was certainly emotional about the music I'd heard before that, but in a personal way, I guess you could say, when I heard that stuff. Like, I mean, I had the same experience that most men who are musicians my age have had, and that's you can't be Eddie Van Halen, but you hear Minor Threat and you're like, I can learn that song right now. So it becomes possible for you to do it.
Right, right. So you went to Atlanta for college.
No, I actually went to school in North Carolina. My sister was going to school up there. And so I didn't really even want to go to college. I just kind of didn't know what else to do. And I knew I wanted to get out of Florida. So it seemed like a reasonable way to get out of Florida. I didn't do so hot in college. I kind of didn't care about it at all and failed out pretty miserably. And then moved to Atlanta. I went back to Georgia State University and got my degree long after that. But the first swing at college, I could not have cared less about it. It was just a way to get out of Florida.
Yeah, I also went because I was just misguided. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something with music, but I had no idea what to do. So I just went to college and I was like,
Yeah.
I'll pick economics as my major. Sure, which was a really stupid idea because I'm horrible at math. And and I failed out. So yeah,
Yeah.
first college experience. Well, that was my only college experience. Not well.
Yeah, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
It's about a bottom line. It just, I didn't care. I was more into like, you know, playing in bands and stuff. And I was fortunate that I was there in sort of the salad days of like the North Carolina indie rock explosion. So that was just a lucky accident. So that was great. And I learned a whole lot about the actual nuts and bolts of being in a band by watching a lot of bands at like Cat's Cradle and stuff like that. I saw Superchunk 30 times, probably, like a lot.
Nice.
So that was really good and really formative. And I, actually knew sort of people who were in cool bands for the first time in my life. So I'm really grateful that I got to be there during that time.
When did you start playing?
I think I got a guitar when I was 13. I think it was eighth grade. I wanted one long before I ever got one, though. I think my parents thought that it would be a passing fad, like, 100 other things that I was into before I was into music, which is hilarious to me now because, like, I've been on reverb.com 3 times today. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
it's not a passing fad.
not at all.
I'm absolutely obsessed with it to this day, every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I finally got one. I was in a youth group with like our church, and the youth group pastor played guitar. So I went to the music store with him, and I got an electric guitar, which I was really excited about. Yeah, and then just basically, played it and played it and played it and played it and played it until it started sounding like something.
Yeah. Were you in any bands in Florida or did that not start until Georgia?
No, I played in bands all through, junior high and high school. But we just were flying blind. Like I had no idea how to go about it really. I was just trying to write songs and, playing in bands with my friends and stuff. And we never like released anything. We played shows and stuff, like just, with our friends at like, DIY kind of like warehouse spaces and stuff. So that was really fun. But and then, I tried to play in bands when I was in North Carolina, but again, I didn't really know what I was doing. I don't know. And I feel like I do know what I'm doing now. So, it was just a long process for me to kind of find my thing, you know.
Right, right. What year did you move to Atlanta?
I think 94 or 95, something like that. It
Okay.
was before the Olympics, and the Olympics were in 96, so I think it was 95.
And you've been there since then, correct?
I have, yeah.
So it's a while until we get to Whores, which was formed in 2010. So
Yeah.
what were you up to in the meantime? Were you in different bands? Were you going to shows? Were you figuring stuff out? What was your life like? What was going on?
Um, in a word, heroin.
Hmm.
I got sober in 2003, and I'm still sober. So I'm 20 years sober now. I'll be 21 in June of this year. But I had a long period, basically my 20s, that are just, seen missing. It's pretty wild what that stuff does to you. It's not something, in my experience, that can be fooled with. It's like I tried it and I was in love. End of story. So that I don't want to get into all the long and short of that, but a lot of times when people are like, like you're older than other people who are doing this, like what other bands were you in before this? And I'm like, nothing of consequence, man. And I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable by telling them the reality of the situation. But if I'm going to be direct, I only had one goal at that time, and it wasn't music. So I had to, reach the end of that before I could even seriously consider pursuing music aggressively like I do now.
Right, right. Well, me too. Me too. A lot of my life wasted in the pursuit of various pills and powders and drinks
Sure.
and
Yeah.
whatnot. And I was in bands, but nothing of consequence. I didn't realize what it took to make a band successful, or, not just to make it successful, but to really put yourself into it, like we were talking about earlier. So there's a big chunk of time lost to just, running around out there being crazy.
Yeah. I thought it was, admirable to like be bad or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really childish, as an adult to look at it, but there was something about it that I thought was really charming, which is idiotic, but at the time it seemed like a good idea. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot to hit people with because I mean, anybody who knows me knows it, but it's a lot. I think most everyone is touched by addiction, their family, whether it's someone they know or someone in their family or themselves. I mean, it's wildly common, but it's still like people would. I used to do this, like when people would, want to. They like the band. They're like, let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a shot. I mean, they want to connect with you, and they want to do something nice for you because they really appreciate what you're doing.
Right.
And, I used to be like, oh, I don't drink, but which is like, why would you punish someone for trying to be nice to you?
Yeah.
So now I just go like, how about a Red Bull or whatever, and I try to not, make my shit other people's problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
far enough removed from it now where I don't feel the need to bring it up like that, right? And
Yep. Same.
that just happens naturally over the evolution of distancing yourself from that stuff. But
Yeah, I think so. I mean, some of my closest friends in the world are people who are in recovery, and it's a lot of my musician friends are sober people. A lot of them. A lot. I mean, a lot of people who are not real public about it, which it's your prerogative whether you want to be public about it or not. But it would surprise, I think, a lot of people if they realized how many successful musicians were sober. A lot.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when you quit, what did you do? Did you have to, did you try therapy? Were you seeing a psychiatrist? Did you have to go the 12-step route? What did you do?
Well, I tried everything. I
Yeah.
mean, until something worked, and I was always just half measures, half measures, half measures, because I don't really, really, really want to do it. I wasn't sure if it would work. And then I was like, well, shit, if I try to do that and that doesn't work, then I'm really fucked. I was like, oh God, I didn't know what to do. So, I mean, so I had to wait until it got to, you know, absolute crisis point. And it did. And, I went to treatment and I lived there for 8.5 months. So I was in a rehab and then a halfway house for, almost a year. And, through that, I got into 12-step stuff. So that's what I do now.
Yeah, same here. That's the only thing that worked, and I tried everything else.
Yeah. And I think it's also a common misconception that we think it's the only path to sobriety. And it's like, dude, I tried fucking everything. And if yoga works for you, do yoga. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If you're able to just like, fuck with it a little bit and put it back down, do that. Do whatever works for you, man. I'm not saying this will work for you or it won't work for you. As I'm sure you know, the whole thing is set up as we did this and it worked for us. Take it or leave it. It's
right.
not you do this, you should do this, you must do this. There's none of that. It's all this is how we did it and it worked. And it did. And it's really fucking simple. And so many people, I mean, it's not easy, but
No,
it's so fucking simple, man. I
it
mean,
really is.
literally the only requirement is a desire to stop. You don't even have to actually stop. You just have to want to stop, and then you can be there. That's it.
Right,
It's
right.
so open ended. It would blow people's minds if they actually knew what it was.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it because I thought you had to become religious or
Oh, of course, yeah.
some empty-headed person who just posts like positive memes online or something.
Right, platitudes, yeah.
And that's me being judgmental. If someone does that, that's fine. I'm in no position to judge anybody, but I mean, you can still be an asshole if you want. You can still be judgmental if you want. You don't have to become religious. But
Yeah.
if you really do all the things that you're supposed to do in that environment, I mean, your life really, really, really significantly changes for the
Dude,
better.
it gave me a life. It didn't even change my life. And it also says in plain English that it's not meant to be a vocation. It's not meant to be my life. It's an avocation. It's something that will allow me to have a life. I'm
Right.
not in it to hide in there. I'm in it to go out into the world and to be useful to the people around me. That's it.
Yes.
And
And
it really worked, man. And it continues to work. I get emotional about it, but it's
me too.
powerful. It's really powerful.
It's a recurring theme on this show, so I'm pleasantly surprised to hear that you're involved. And I don't mean 12 steps specifically, but if
Oh, there are lots of paths to it. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, because I'm always interested in how people got it, and it's different. Some people just threw themselves into music. Some people just threw themselves into fitness. So my advice is always, find the thing that works for you because it's possible to stop. I didn't think it
Of
was possible.
course.
I'm sure you didn't either.
I not only did I not know if it was possible or not, I wasn't sure if I wanted to, and I wasn't sure if it would work for me, and I wasn't sure if I wanted it to work for me. But none of that
Right.
shit matters because it's not. There's this weird cliche where people like to argue about is it for the people who need it or the people who want it, and it's not for either of those people. It's for the people who do it. You take the action, you get the result. It doesn't matter about if my brain could have fixed me, do you think I would have done something? I mean, come on. You do the work, you get the result. It's basic as shit, man. And it is actual work. It's pen to paper work, as I'm sure you know. And
Oh yeah.
I hate to be a cheerleader for it, but it's more than saved my life. It gave me a life.
Yeah, I say the same thing. Look, everybody, it gave us each a life.
Yeah,
We're
it's
happy about it.
a buddy of mine and a phenomenal drummer from Athens has a podcast that is about essentially musicians in recovery, and it's very cleverly titled "Crash and Ride." The double entendre is just, But yeah, he's a hell of a drummer. We've actually played music together a couple of times. But yeah, he was in this band called 5/8, who I guess he's still in that band, like a college rock kind of 80s college rock band.
Hmm.
And then he's been in 100 different bands. He tours as a tech sometimes. He played drums for Psychedelic Furs. He played drums with Bill Berry from REM. He played with Bill Wyman from the Stones. I mean, he's a G, and he's the most down to earth dude and a phenomenal musician and fun
Wow.
to talk to too. And sobriety gave him all of that, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff. So, Whores gets formed in 2010.
Yeah, thereabouts. I think we played our first show in 2010. So we probably started the year prior. But I think that's you know, the official start of the band, because that's when we started showing other people, you know.
How old are you at that time?
Geez, I don't know. How long ago was that?
That's 14 years ago.
All right. So I was um 36, I guess. Yeah, I had been sober for probably about 5 years at that point. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
Nice. So I love all the parallels because pretty close to age when I started taking music more seriously as well. So I love that. But so
Yeah.
you're around 35 years old. We get the band started. How? When? Do you know the other people in the band at that time? How's it come together?
Um yeah, like anything, it was fits and starts. I decided once that I had gotten sober that I was going to earnestly try to play music, and I didn't have any equipment, of course. Like, I'd sold every single thing I owned. But a friend of mine had a 4-track, and he sold it to me for next to nothing. He was another sober guy, and I found out that you can. My sister bought me a guitar for Christmas, so I had an electric guitar, and I figured out that you can play through the 4-track, and if you turn up the volume on the track and then turn the master volume down, you can kind of get it to distort, and it's sort of a pleasing sound too. It isn't terrible sounding. So I started kind of writing songs that way. And I had played it with a bunch of different people around Atlanta, and it was just like, nope, nope, nope. Okay, that guy maybe has something, but there are these other circumstances that don't really work. So then I was playing in this band as one of the guitar players, and I wasn't really into it, but I was like, I just wanted to play music, so I was like, sure, I'll be in this band. And I kind of really wasn't a good enough guitar player really to be in that band, because it was kind of a more like I guess metal kind of band, and I'm just not that kind of player, you know. So I got kicked out of that band because I just wasn't good enough. And then the bass player of that band quit that band, and we started a band with a drummer who I had played with in the past prior to getting sober. That was Travis and Steven. Travis was the drummer, Travis Owen, and Steven Higginbottom was the bass player. And we started, trying to put songs together, and, going to band practice a couple times a week, and ended up recording like a 5-song demo, which is what turned into Ruiner, the first EP. And then just started kind of playing regional shows, and I like your band, you're from Charleston, if you can get us a show in Charleston, we'll get you one in Atlanta. And everyone does that. You swap shows and stuff, and luckily everyone had the good sense to you give the touring band the money, because none of us are making any money, and $40 is a lot more than $0.
Yeah.
So we did that. That's kind of how it started.
How soon do you get the attention of Brutal Panda?
Well, I guess we recorded Ruiner because we just kind of wanted to have something to kind of show people, like, this is what our band sounds like. It wasn't meant to be a release or anything per se. And then we were just making like CDRs of it, and handing them out at shows, basically. And I really don't know. I think I know what it was. So we played a show with this band who came to Atlanta called Fight Amp. And Mike McGinnis is the guitar player in that band.
Yes, I know him. He's been on this show too.
Sure. So we started, they had been an Atlanta show, and the promoter just put us with them because they thought it was, compatible. And then I was like, man, I really want to kind of try to start playing shows, outside of the Southeast. And I hit him up, and I was like, hey, could we come up to New Jersey and play a show with you guys? And he booked, we did like a Halloween kind of basement show at his house, which was really fun. And then we did a show at a like this bicycle kind of co-op place in Delaware. And there was one other show. Oh, and then we also played this like cafe in Baltimore. So it's just 3 shows. But it was like I was so excited. You know, it was
Yeah.
awesome. I was like, just amazing. So I'm sure Mike is how Brutal Panda heard about us. It's got to be.
Nice, nice. So did you once you released Ruiner and Clean in 2013, I mean, do you see increased interest in the band? How much are you out there playing at that point?
Um, well, I was working at a coffee shop at that point. So I couldn't really do long tours or whatever. And then I started as I was also finishing up school at that time, and I started working as an intern at Adult Swim in Atlanta, and the band started doing more shows in like New York and Boston and Philly and just kind of the Northeast area. And it's weird, like, we would play Atlanta shows and there would be, a dozen people there or whatever. And for some reason, people really started coming to our shows up in New York and Philly. I don't know why, really. I've never really analyzed it too much, but people just started coming to the shows there. And then because, New York is kind of a press hub, people kind of started writing about the band. And like we were able to sell out St. Vitus as a headliner, like pretty early, I
Nice.
think. And then, the rest of the country doesn't know that St. Vitus is only like a 200 capacity room. They just know that you sold out a show in New York. So it looks like big shit, which of course to me it was big shit at the time. I was like, I couldn't fucking believe it was happening. So like the rest of the country kind of maybe became aware of us mostly because of St. Vitus, because we were doing well there and they have such a reputation, for just kind of booking rad shit that people don't know about yet, that it just kind of started taking off.
So then we end up signing with E1 for Gold, the
Yeah.
2016 LP.
Yeah. Yeah. We had offers from a couple different people and we didn't really know like what the right move was. Because I was kind of concerned that maybe signing a deal like that might sort of alienate some people. And like I don't know, the only band of theirs I liked was High on Fire, and like the other ones I just like, I don't, it wasn't really for me. But they seem like nice guys and stuff, and they seem like they really liked the band. And we did a this festival in Gainesville that's just called Fest.
Right.
And Melvins were on that festival. So I spoke to Buzz about it. I was like, well, I don't know what to do in this situation because we got this offer and it's like kind of a lot of money. And, I'm worried that if we take it, it's going to upset people who like our band. And I don't want to do that. I'd rather, you know, not let them down, even if it's at the expense of new people liking the band or whatever. And he just said, take the money. I mean, he had to have said it 7 or 8 times. And I just kept going, yeah, but da, da, da. He just said, take the money. And I was like, well, and he's like, man, that might not offer it to you again. So you just need to go ahead and take it. And then if that doesn't work out, then you put your next record out on your friend's label. Like that'll be there. It's fine. So we took the money.
It's good advice.
He's a smart guy. I
Yeah.
mean, he might not have a formal education, but he's a smart businessman, and I trusted his opinion. So that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know him socially at all prior to that. I was like, I'm going to ask, Caesar what I should do here, and he was right. So
Yeah, he was just on the show recently too, and that tracks with what he was talking about with their major label experience. So good stuff.
sure,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I had never been in that position before, and I didn't know how to navigate it really. So I just asked someone who I thought maybe had been through something similar, and someone who I respected.
right. So around the time of the release of Gold, I think a little before, you took the band full time, right? It was your main focus.
Oh yeah, for sure. As soon as we were able to start doing like full US tours and full European tours and stuff, yeah, it just became full blast for sure.
And what kind of changes did you have to make in your life? I mean, you were you still working at the coffee shop? How did you make ends meet? Like, what changed?
Um, no, I had left there. I had left the shop because like once I started interning at Adult Swim, it was like I realized that like you know I didn't want to keep doing that because I was just like I was grateful for the opportunity to be there for sure, but like I was just sitting in a cubicle, staring at a computer screen, looking at an Excel spreadsheet and like filling in the cells, and I was like, this fucking sucks, man. Like this, I do not want to do this for the next 30 years. As cool or whatever you want to say about that place and the awesome shows and everything, and it was just an office job, and I was like, I don't want to do this. And that's right around the time when we started doing real well at St. Vitus. That's right around that time is also when I met my friend who I'm staying with here, John. He is a Philly dude, but he was living in New York and back and forth between Philly and New York. And we had met through this like effects pedal forum because we both used to be on there all the time, and we would just mercilessly troll nerds that were on there. And like, so I was like, this guy's awesome. Like he talks as much shit as I do, we immediately hit it off. And so he came to the St. Vitus show and he's like, what's up? What are you going to do after this tour? And I was like, I don't fucking know. I just quit my job. Like I don't have anything to do after this tour. And so he was charges the name for the boss for the scenic department. He was the boss of a job that was coming up in Philly. And he was like, would you want to come to Philly and work for a few months? And I was like, hell yes. So I got home from tour and then went up to Philly and got an apartment and kept my place in Atlanta, but got an apartment in Philly and started working for him. And then I was able to kind of like go back and forth and go job to job and not like, have a regular job where I would have to quit and then get rehired. But it's like, it's like project to project, I guess is a more accurate way to state it. So I kind of started doing that. But once that was probably maybe 2014 when that happened. But then after Gold came out, we pretty much just toured as much as we could for like up until COVID, really, the next like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. A lot was going on with you during Gold, right? You you lost the practice space. You had a relationship ended. Your mom was on chemotherapy.
Yeah, God, it was brutal.
How was she doing? How did that go?
Cancer free, man. It's amazing. Cancer free. She's a tough woman though, too.
I'm happy to hear that because my dad had a cancer battle last year and he survived. So,
Yeah, I think it's not, there's no cure yet, but I think they're making leaps and bounds as far as treatment goes. Yeah, so I don't know. It was a tough time, It was a tough time, but it didn't make me necessarily throw myself harder into the nuts and bolts of being in a band, but it did make me kind of start writing from a more vulnerable kind of place, which I think is key for what I do. I mean, you don't have to be completely honest to be like a good artist or I think the whole Tom Waits thing is a hustle, but it's a hustle I love. Like it's awesome. He obviously doesn't live in a fucking junkyard, you know what I mean? But like it's a put on, but it's fantastic. So it doesn't have to be completely honest for it to have some merit, but for me it does. So I was able to kind of start being, a little more ugly about the things I write about, and it resonated with people, I guess.
I liked what I read about the album cover too. You took the trash can and spray painted it gold.
Yeah, I still have it. It's in my apartment.
I do. Do you use it as an actual trash can, or is it just there?
No, I have like blankets and stuff in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like the blanket holder. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that representation, the gold trash can.
Yeah, thank you. I like real simple images. There's a continuum with all the art for all the releases we've done, and it's, I like a simple image and a simple word that might not directly relate to the image, but you can connect the dots and sort of come up with your own interpretation of it. And the new record's no different. It's in that same sort of vein of like the image might mean one thing, but the image coupled with the word is kind of greater than either of the two things are on their own, or I hope it is.
Yeah, when I write, I don't like it to be on the nose or so out there that people don't know what I'm talking about. I try to go somewhere in the middle so that there can be some interpretation, but also like what I'm trying to get across personally comes through. How about for you?
Yeah, I definitely try to be, um, as far as language goes, if I find I'm using too many syllables, or if I'm using a word that's maybe um, a little too much as far as like pretentious or whatever, I try to keep it really sort of basic as far as the actual words, and I spend a lot of time thinking about like what am I really trying to say. And I know for a lot of people, words don't mean anything to them. They just like riffs and stuff, and I totally get that. But they're the most important thing to me. And I don't expect other people to feel that way, but whatever. I don't, I'm my own man, so it's important to me.
So what happened? COVID hits, band is on hold. Well, everything's on hold. So I guess that put a halt to things for a while.
Yeah, it was. I mean, everybody had the same experience, but like a bunch of different injuries, kind of back to back, right around that same time.
Oh, right. You fell off stage at a Cult of
Yeah,
Luna gig you played, right? And you had to have surgery.
yeah, that was in Toronto. I remember it was Toronto because Hayden and Chris from Metz were there, and they're from Toronto, so that's how I remember that it was Toronto because I came to the show. Name dropper, but they were there and they saw me like right after it happened, and I was like, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm not really sure what I should be doing here, and they could see my knees swelling up, and I was like texting with our manager and with our booking agent. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I think it's pretty bad. And, I know that I should have just gone to the emergency room in socialized healthcare Canada. I didn't think to do that. I was in so much pain. I just couldn't fucking think, man.
We're conditioned here to not want to go to the hospital because it will put you in debt for the rest of your life.
I guess so, man. I guess so. So I ended up once I got back to America, I ended up we played a couple more shows, and I couldn't walk. I just had crutches and would sit down when we played and stuff. I had surgery on it and had to recoup that. Shortly after I rehabbed that, which was about a year, I was working on this Steven Spielberg pilot, and I tripped and fell, and then I fell forward and I broke both my elbows and a rib.
What?
So that no, there's more, dude.
Oh,
So that happened. And then I was in physical therapy for 3 months, and then occupational therapy for 6 months. And the occupational therapy was 2 hours a day, 3 times a week for 6 months. So I had to do that. So I rehabbed that. And then that's right around when COVID happened. And then COVID happened. And then right after COVID, I got hurt again, and I had to have knee surgery on my other knee. And that was a torn meniscus. So those three back to back to back. And then also during that time, Donnie, who was the drummer in the band during Gold, had to leave the band because he has two young boys, and they were growing up without their dad, and it just wore on him to the point where he just couldn't do it anymore. He and I actually are still great friends, and we just started playing together again. We're starting it's like another completely separate band. We don't even know what it's going to be yet, really, but we've just started playing music together. But so he had to leave the band too. So there was just fucking chaos, man, for a couple of years. And when people
man.
are like, why did it take so long for this new record to come out? What are you, lazy or something? It's just like, oh, I don't have time to explain to you. Plus, I sound like a goddamn crybaby, like talking about this stuff. So it's like, I just don't have the fucking, intestinal fortitude to even get into it, man. I gotta just be like, I don't know, man. Stuff takes time, But that's kind of the reason that our friend Calvin is shooting this thing about us, because in spite of all of that, I stay pretty like okay, like I'm not poor me in it. I'm not, I'm still pretty happy for the life I've got. And I'm able to stay like kind of focused on what's important to me, and that's music, and I'm never going to stop doing it. Never. So like, it doesn't matter what I put in front of me or what gets put in front of me. I'm going over it or around it or through it. Nothing's going to stop me.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you ever feel like giving up or, I don't know, throwing in the towel? But it sounds like not, because it sounds like this is the most important thing to you.
Yeah, never. Yeah, never. It is the most important thing to me. And it's a bummer sometimes because there are other parts of my life that I don't want to say I'm missing out on, but other parts of life in the general sense that I'm not able to participate in, like having children or being married or owning a house or any of these things. I'm not sure if I want those things or not. I mean, I don't feel like I'm missing anything at this point. I'm sure on my deathbed I'll be like, man, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know, man. I like who I am, you know what I mean? And like I don't know, I'm gonna see this through.
I like that. I like that. I'm there with you because, I miss out on a lot of that stuff. I'm single currently. I don't have any kids. I haven't been in a relationship in a while. I don't do a ton of socializing unless it's around a band or
Yeah,
going
same.
to a show or some kind of creative project, right? I won't take a vacation. I won't go with friends to some island or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, me
I'm
neither.
I'm focused on making things constantly, but number one, that's what makes me happiest, and number two, that's what I want
Right.
to be doing. That's
Right.
yeah.
That's Douglas and I talk about this sometimes, like because he and Douglas is the drummer in the band. We've both been in bands before where you have to like beg people to come to practice, and or you're like you feel like they're doing you a favor coming to practice. And I'm like, don't you want to go like into the room and turn your fire breathing amp on and hear it go boom? Like that's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Like all the other stuff is great, and I love playing shows, and I love recording, and I love doing having conversations like this are great. But the actual act of like hitting a big goddamn open chord on my ridiculously oversized rig is incomparable. And to not want to do that is like you're in the wrong band, man. Because like if you don't have the like that lust for life that I feel like innately feel, then I can't relate to you, man.
I'm right there with you. So we have War coming out on April 16th on The Ghost is Clear Records, yes?
Yes.
And I'm very excited about this. I've heard all of the singles because I am a very I'm a very important podcaster in my own mind. In my own mind. So they sent
All
me all
right.
the singles and I love what I hear.
Cool.
I can't wait for this record. First I gotta know, tell me about your rig because I love the guitar sound on this.
Um, well, I think there are there are a lot of different parts to it, but I think essentially what people are hearing is I play a Fender Esquire, which is a single pickup Telecaster. And it's not just that it's one pickup; it's the pickup that's in the bridge it's the wiring that sort of makes it unique. When it's in the back position, what would be the Telecaster bridge position, it's wired straight to the volume. It bypasses the tone pot, so you get a bit of a volume boost there. In the middle position, it's sort of like it would be in a standard Telecaster back position where both the volume and tone are active. And in the forward position, the volume is again only the volume is active, but there's a capacitor in there that gives you a lot of treble roll off and a bit of a bass. Important to me. I play a bunch of different guitars, but I've been playing SG lately, a P90 SG, but like that's the number. I mean, that's what I record with, and that's the number one thing. So there's that, and then the majority of the time I've been in the band, I've always played these two Marshall Super Leads. They're both 100-watt heads and two 412 cabinets. Lately, or at least in Europe, I've been playing high watts, a DR103 and a DR504, and then two 412 cabinets, which I love them. I just can't afford my own yet. So hopefully I can buy some of those soon too. But so it's mostly that single coil guitar, and high watts and Marshalls, or those Marshalls at least, are fairly similar. The high watts are a little cleaner sounding, a little brighter sounding.
Mhm.
Marshalls have a little more of a low mid range kind of hump, which is nice because you get like a real nice chunk to them.
Right.
So those are the main things, and then I use a bubble font Big Muff with a clean boost. Yeah, so that's like the big boom sound. My friend refers to it as the jet engine.
Nice.
So yeah, the Big Muff and the clean boost turn on at the same time. So I have like a switcher that like I'll be playing like an overdrive or a fuzz or something for like the verse parts of the song, and then I hit the switcher and it turns that stuff off and turns the big muff and the clean boost on together. So that's the big boom sound.
Nice, nice. Where did you record War?
War was recorded by our friend Ryan, who he also recorded Gold and he also recorded Clean. He was living in Atlanta, had a studio in Atlanta, and then his father recently sort of is not at 100%, and he lives down in Newport Richey, Florida. So Ryan was going down there quite a bit to sort of look after his dad, and then this studio became available in Tampa, and he hopped on it, and then moved in there, pulled everything out of there, completely like just it's so baller. He just pulled everything out of there and made it his own. So it's called Candor Recording, or Candor, I guess it's the correct pronunciation. And that's in Tampa. So it's again with Ryan. It's just we record it in Tampa instead of Atlanta because Ryan lives in Tampa now, and we go where Ryan goes. Man, he's very important to our band.
Yes, yes. I love the recording. I love all the recordings, but War sounds really good, so I understand.
Yeah, he gets our band. We grew up listening to similar kind of styles of music. I mean, he's one of my best friends. I trust him 100%. Like if I don't know if something's good enough or not, like he'll tell me like you can do better, or he'll be like that's good. Let's move on. Let's go to the next thing. So I don't have to question myself too much because I defer to him, and he's always right. So it works out.
I like that too, because when I record, I get into like a brain fog kind of, especially if we're moving through stuff quick or it's been a long day. So I'll just be like, what are we doing? Is that bad? Is that good? I'd need somebody to tell me.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's hard to be, I mean, you can't be objective when you're holding the guitar. I mean,
Right.
it's difficult, but you want it to be good, but you also, you don't want to half-ass it, but you also don't want to, do it to death where you do it so many times, you take the thing that made it great away from it, So
Right.
there's a sweet spot there.
And I was going to ask, now there was quite a gap between Gold and War, but listen, everybody, we heard it direct from Christian. A lot went on, some
Yeah.
serious injuries, some serious rehabilitations, some serious worldwide pandemics, but thank goodness you got through all of that, and we have this record to look forward to.
Man, I started this list in my phone of like all the shit that had happened, just like kind of for my own personal amusement. And like there was like a hurricane at one point when we were in the studio, and like
Oh no.
there was just, I mean, there's so many. It just got comical, So it was just kind of for me. I was thinking in some way maybe I would use it to kind of help promote the record or something, but then I was like, no, this is just for me. It's just
It could turn the list of things in that notes pad thing, that could be
yeah.
like the track list for the next record.
I mean, it's just gallows humor, it's my favorite kind, It's just like I love shit like that. So yeah, it's
Well,
just for me. Yeah.
so what do we have coming up? I mean, we've got the new record. We're looking forward to that. Well, what's coming up after that?
Let's see. So I go home to Atlanta in a month, and then the record comes out on the 16th. And before that, we're playing this festival in Chicago called Forever Deaf Fest. That's on the 30th of this month. It's like 2 weeks, I think. So we're doing that, and then I go home, and then the record comes out, and then we have a record release show at the Earl in Atlanta. I think that's on the 24th or 26th, so a Friday at the end of the month. I'm not sure exactly what it is. And then we've got I guess the next like 3 weeks at home, the first 3 weeks of May, where we're just going to practice like our lives depend on it. And then we go on our first US headliner for the record, which goes from I think the 22nd of May to about the 22nd of June. It's about 30 days, all over the country. And then we'll be home, I guess, for the last bit of June. Right now, we're possibly doing something with someone else in July. We haven't really accepted or declined it yet. We're looking at possibly doing another leg of the US is what I would like to do. And I just spoke with our agent, our US booking agent about it. Kind of want to hit a lot of the cities that we're not able to hit on this first run in the US. And that would probably be August, September. We're potentially doing Europe in October. We have routing for it. We're just trying to figure out if we can do it and not completely go broke. And then, probably holidays, and then 2025, I assume we're just going to tour the entire year. That's what we want to do at least.
Nice. It's got to feel good to be getting back to it on this level, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. I have no idea, man. It's like, I remember like having those come to God moments on tour and being like, I am doing exactly what I'm here for. And it's awesome when you feel it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll be at work and I'm like, man, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm, fucking Mr. Artist guy and or whatever. And and like and then I've just realized that I'm being a shit and I'm not being grateful for the awesome life I have. So I can snap out of that stuff pretty quick. But yeah, when you are out there actually doing it and the simplicity of being on tour and the routine of it or whatever, I'm made for it and I love it so much. I can't wait.
It occurred to me recently. I was thinking about just before the pandemic, and I was like, wait a second, 2019 was 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
I couldn't even comprehend that. Like it just felt wrong.
Yeah, scene missing, like that Nine Inch Nails video, scene missing. Like, God damn it, man. What the hell was that? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's strange, man. I mean, all of 2020 just down the shitter the whole year. It's weird.
So I read a good story. You connected with Tom Hazelmeyer fr-
Yeah.
from Amphetamine Reptile Records because you saw that he bought your music on Bandcamp.
Yeah, it was so cool. Yeah, because you get the email. Like, I don't know what Bandcamp's problem is, but like every time you're like, Bandcamp, you just made 8 cents. You just made 30 cents. Like, I don't need to email every time, man. Like, Jesus Christ. And then PayPal will send you one too. Hey, that 30 cents that Bandcamp made you? It's actually 20 cents. So but for whatever reason, I opened it up and I saw his name and I was like, no way. Like, it's not the same guy. And it was the same guy. And I was like, holy shit. So I took a screenshot of it and like put it up on Instagram, tagged him in, AMRAP in it, of course. And then he hit us up and he asked us if we wanted to do a song on Dope Guns and Fucking the Streets. And I said, are you fucking kidding me? Yes. And so we recorded a song for that. And then he used to do these festivals called Bash. He would do them on odd numbered years. And he asked us if we wanted to do that. And it was like us who are fucking nobodies. And then like Melvins and Mudhoney and, Lydia Lunch with fucking Weasel Walter and Bob Burt in her band and goddamn Cherubs and like all these fucking legends and us. I was like, oh, yes, we were going to go ahead and immediately say yes to that. And then there was a record that came out with that festival too that we recorded a song for as well. Yeah, we talked to him about putting this record out just because we love him so much and we love so much of so many of the records he's put out. But he said that what he's really trying to do right now is more along the lines of kind of how sort of bespoke toy companies work and in that they do like one release of a thing and that's it. He doesn't like to keep records, in stock and like always have them available for tour or whatever. He just doesn't operate that way anymore.
Right.
So it's kind of a one-time thing. And like, he's like, I don't think it would be smart for you guys to do that because, we do 1,000 records and God willing, you're able to sell them all. That's it. There is no next pressing until it's, years later. So, and he was right, yeah, I mean, we did the couple pre-sales for this record and bam, 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 they're gone. It's, yes, I'm bragging, but I'm also like, we didn't know, man. We didn't know it was going to happen. We were worried that like no one's going to buy it or people going to be like, oh man, well, they had a good run, like they're fucked now or whatever. And like, it's just not happening that way, which is great. But I was concerned that could happen. I don't know. It didn't. It's fine. I don't know. I was
Harkening back to our recovery lives, it's just more to be grateful for, right?
yeah, man. It's I don't know. It's spectacular. All I ever wanted, was to just play in a band and like actually be doing it and playing shows. And it's, got so much more than that. It's mind blowing. So everything feels like a bonus nowadays. Everything's extra.
I love it. I love it. So everybody, War is coming out April 16th. It will be out the day after you listen to this groundbreaking interview. So make sure you purchase it if there's any pre-orders still out there and listen
Yeah,
to
we're
it.
doing a third pressing.
Good.
Yeah.
And also, Whores have a collaboration with Idiot Box. You made a fuzz pedal, right?
We did. We have two. We have another one that's coming out, but it's with a different company. But I'm not going to say what that is yet because it is not out yet. But the Idiot Box fuzz, we're getting a bunch more made for tour. So we'll have them at the merch table. Matt, who owns and operates Idiot Box, has to sort through all the transistors and match them up and stuff. So it's not like you can just buy off the shelf stuff and put it together. It's kind of like you have to buy a grip of these transistors and then go through them individually, one by one, and test them, and then test them against each other and see which one. It's time consuming. Like anything worth doing, it takes a little doing. So they're not just always available, but he's going to make, I think maybe a couple dozen for us for tour. So we'll have them on the merch table.
That sounds like the real deal.
He's a cool guy, man. He's all into like vintage video games and stuff. Like his screen name is Atari Matt. He's an interesting dude. Yeah, he's super cool.
Now that I love. I got really into, well, I was already really into gaming, but during the pandemic, I got really into like classic NES and.
Oh man, you should talk to Casey, my bandmate. He's like all about like Zelda and like classic, and he's a really good, like, I hate to use the word gamer, but like it's what he is. And he's really good at it too. And does like Twitch and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm into all that still.
Yeah. It's every single night. It's what he's doing. Yeah.
Well, Christian, I love the band. I love what I've heard of the new record. I can't wait for everybody else to hear it. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Man, thank you. I was, when I was looking at like, all the episodes you've done so far, I saw JP from San Diego. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I saw Kristen, also from San Diego, author and Punisher, and then Tiffany. I was like, fuck yeah, this guy is awesome. I'm glad I'm in such esteemed company.
Great to have you here. So thank you so much. And there you have it. Christian Lembach. Amazing conversation. Surprise recovery conversations are some of my favorite on this show. I thought I read somewhere that Christian was sober, but I didn't know if he was just sober in recovery or abstinent, just never drank before. I thought I read it in some article, and then I kept looking and looking for the article where I saw it, and I couldn't find it. But always a great surprise to talk to a fellow person in recovery. And those are my favorite stories. Someone like Christian overcoming everything that he has and living the life he wants to live and doing everything he wants to do now. And Whores are an excellent band. Really looking forward to War. The singles I've heard from the record are awesome. And I hope I get to see them and meet Christian at some point. So great stuff. Thank you so much, Christian, for coming on the show. So let's check in. How are we doing? I hope you've seen the big news by now that This Day Forward are reuniting at the end of August for 2 reunion gigs, one in Philadelphia, which is sold out now, and one in New York City at the Bowery Ballroom. As I'm recording this now, there are still tickets for the New York City show, but I don't know how long that's going to last, so if you want to go, I recommend getting tickets soon. I'm just as surprised as everyone else, because last time I talked to the guys, I didn't think it was going to happen until they told me it was going to happen, because, it was still up in the air. So I'm excited. Their last show was in 2003, and I don't think there's any other band that has had such an impact on me personally. I met those guys when I was 16, some of them. They took me in, they brought me into their group, they brought me to shows, they got me involved in this music. I wouldn't be sitting here right now talking to you if it weren't for them. So I'm very, very excited that they're playing these shows. I can't wait. I can't wait to see them. I was with some of the guys in This Day Forward 2 weeks ago. I was in Bensalem, PA to see the Values Here Civ Shelter show, which was great. Values Here were awesome live. I think that was their second show ever, if I remember what the singer said correctly. So pretty cool to see that. Civ I've never seen before. Awesome stuff. They brought some kids on stage to dance during one of their songs, and they gave the mic to a kid at one point to sing along to one of the songs. I love that. That's nice that they're giving back like that. I mean, that could have an impact on those kids' lives that we don't even know. Maybe 10, 15 years from now, they'll be in a band and they'll want to be pursuing this. So that was cool to see. That put a smile on my face. And Shelter I have never seen before, but amazing live. Mantra is my favorite record by them. They played some stuff from that and a good selection of other stuff. So all in all, great show and great to connect with some of my friends who I haven't seen in a while. I saw Luke Carmen there, who's been on this podcast. I saw Liam Wilson from the Dillinger Escape Plan. He's been on this podcast. And it was funny when I was at the show, you know how you always hear me rant about when I'm at a live gig and some guy will stand directly in front of my face, even if there's a bunch of space around me, and even if there's 50 feet in front of that guy, right? He'll stand 1 centimeter from my face. I was talking to Mike Shaw, singer of This Day Forward, at the Shelter gig, and we're talking about that and joking about it. And as I'm standing there, there's 50 feet of space in front of me, and a guy stands directly in front of me, 1 centimeter from my face. And then I turned to Mike and we just looked at each other and started cracking up. And he's like, I thought you were lying. And I was like, no, I'm telling you, whatever gig I go to, no matter where it is, someone will stand directly in front of my face at some point during the night. It's always a trip being back in Bensalem or Bucks County. You know, I grew up there. It's where my parents still live. I mean, 20 years ago, that was my whole life. My whole life was driving to the Great American Diner and Pub on Street Road and getting plastered. And that was about it. That was about all I was concerned with at that time. And when I go back there, you know, just to see people I haven't seen in a long time or drive around and look at things and have memories come back, it's pretty wild. And it's been very busy here. I was in Dallas this past week for my job. My team had a meeting there, and I haven't seen all of them in person since 2022, I think. There's a new leadership at my day job, and some of them came by our team meeting, and there was a lot of conversations and planning for the year. Dallas I haven't been to in, 2 years. Got to eat some good Tex-Mex and Mexican food, so I'm happy about that. But I was sick the week leading up to that. I got sick again. There's something going around again here in New York City and everywhere else. Some kind of congestion, coughing, light cold thing. So I had that and I was not happy about it. And I'm coming up on another anniversary of being clean. And I usually don't feel great around this time mentally or physically. I don't know, the change in season from winter to spring, I usually don't feel great. I usually get sick. Both of those things happened, and I'm just racked with a lot of self-doubt and different bad feelings going on right now. So I'm just trying to push through it and get everything done that I need to get done, which I've been doing. So I'm hanging in there. There's plenty to look forward to, which is good. So let's move into the new scene, Community Hour. We have 2 new reviews, and I'm going to read them right now. The first one is from Nick N. Nick says, great host and meaningful dialogue, 5 stars. I tune in most weeks whether I've heard of the guest or not. Keith is a very polite host, always asking thoughtful questions of the guests that span their careers and lives. He seems genuinely curious, which translates to a welcoming environment for the guests and allows them to share freely. Recommended for other music nerds who love learning how your favorite artists build their careers and what they love about them. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, that's my goal, is to try to make the conversation interesting, even if you haven't heard of the guest. So if people haven't heard of the guest and they're still listening, that's my favorite. You know, like when I listened to Howard Stern back in the day, it didn't matter who he had on. It could be a celebrity. It could be an American Idol contestant. It could be a guy off the street. Whoever he was talking to, it was going to be interesting and it was going to be good. And I would listen to all of it, everything, everyone, no matter who he interviewed. So that's my goal with everyone I speak to as well. Next review from Jeff the Chef. So sick, 5 stars. Only post-rock noise podcast I listen to. Not because I'm closed off to the others. This is just genuinely killing it on the questions I want to hear and the artists I wanted to know more about. Thanks. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I love that. That's awesome. So yeah, if you have not left a review for the podcast yet, hit that 5-star button on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you leave a nice review, as Jeff and Nick here did, I will read it in this section of the show. Thank you, everybody who is submitting reviews. We did get over 200. Was that the goal? Yeah, we did get over 200 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But soon we will begin the push to 300. So leave a review. It really helps us out. I also got an email from Michael Tweetmeyer. He says, "Hi, Keith. I first found your show when you interviewed my old friend, TJ DeBloy. It was touching revisiting that episode last year, and I've been listening to every episode ever since. There's actually so much I'd want to say here, but I'll keep it brief. I am amazed at all growth. I hope you keep at it. The guests, the episodes, the content, and personal stories of recovery, all excellent. You've been getting some great guests, and I am excited to see what's next. Also a fan of the Basement Year and excited to see you playing in the Darling Fire. Come to Chicago soon. Best wishes, Mike." Thank you, Mike. Yeah, thank you for that. And rest in peace, TJ DeBloy. Happy to talk to a friend of his. And Mike Tweetmeyer is in a band called The Transcendents. They have a new single out called Unwritten. It's awesome. Go check it out. So that's all I've got for this week. We're going to end the show with The Summer Kills. This is a band featuring Andrew and Mark from Hammock. I've been listening to a lot of Hammock since I had Mark on the show. They are my favorite band. They are my favorite artists. And I'm still on a high from having Mark on the show. So we will end the show with the song Summer Kills from their 2018 record, Last Night We Became Swans. And you know what? The summer does kill. I don't like the summer. I don't like the heat. I don't do well during the summer, so I'm kind of in fear of it. And this song is a good representation of how I feel during the summer and how I feel in general right now. I'm back next week with a return guest, and this conversation is awesome. It's one of my favorite I've done this year so far. So we have that to look forward to next week, and I'll see you then.